256, 10106, runway 1 right, clear for takeoff.
1 right, clear to go, yeah, you're back.
Clear 4461, 1 right, left and white.
Hey everyone, welcome back to FlightCast. This is the Infinite Flight-est podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Jason Rosewell, and with me as usual in the FlightCast virtual studio is Mr. Skyhawk Heavy Mark Denton. Mark, I feel like it's been like 2 whole weeks since we did this.
You know, I was thinking that earlier, man. It's been 2 weeks, man.
It's been over 2 weeks because here we are close to Wednesday recording this, and we recorded the other one way early with Ryan Vince. So, yeah, man, it's been a while. Wow.
And what is FlightCast? I mean, I appreciate you reading it slow from my perspective for me to understand it, but FlightCast.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if I said I'm the Jasonist person on the podcast.
You know what? I could say this, and I mean this with all my heart, man.
Mm-hmm.
You are my favorite podcast host in Canada named Jason. And I mean that.
That's like what I tell my kids. I'm like, son, you're my favorite kid named Aiden in this house.
Yeah, I just tell Matthew all the time that too. You're my favorite son. Daddy, I'm your only son. Exactly. That I know of.
Yeah. Oh,
you're the
man.
only son I'm paying for.
Well, and to continue with our intro, our producer doesn't exist, so that's not worth mentioning.
I was wondering where he's...
Mark, how's your week going so far?
Man, listen. I woke up this morning, and I reckon, that put me off to a good start.
Yeah, well done.
So it's
well done.
Yeah. So waking up this morning put me off to a good start. But the week so far, being that it's Monday, it's pretty good. It's
awesome.
Going pretty good. So
yeah, you know what? We are lining up some guests for the podcast, and we are just going to take a little bit of a different turn today, and we have nobody here to interview. And we got lots to talk about, but I've had some comments from some people just saying, guys, you just like, talk. And often the intro part, I've had comments of people, that's their favorite part. So we're just going to do one massive
especially
hour-long
last week
intro.
when I did it, or 2.5 weeks ago,
mm-hmm.
when you threw that on me. Yep. I mean, that just excelled us right there.
I think what they love about it, Mark, if I'm honest, is they like the contrast between the subtle Canadian accent and the not so subtle Southern American accent.
So what you're saying is that I've got some kind of a Southern drawl?
Yeah, a little bit.
You're the one with the accent to me, not me. I don't have one.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? In spite of that, Mark, I love you.
I know most people do.
Mm-hmm.
But I reckon I love you too, man. I appreciate you. I really do.
Thanks, boo-boo. All right. Well, let's continue on here. What's new in the infinite flight world these days, Mark?
Well, let me see. Today, put out a new video tutorial on, what was it? Flight following.
Flight following.
So,
I haven't watched that yet. How'd it turn out?
Yeah, I appreciate your support with that. Mm-hmm. I think it turned out really well. There's been a lot of positive feedback from it already. I think it was just something that's needed. It was something that was actually highly requested by a lot of people in the community. Just wanting to have a better understanding. And, what we have to do, and one of the biggest struggles that I have is, one, doing a tutorial on something specific, but trying to make it to where it's easily understandable in a 2 to 3 minute video.
Yeah, and you took a lot of heat for your strobe and
oh my Lord,
landing light
man
tutorial.
Listen, when I put something out, and I'll say this, if there's something that I don't know, because obviously I'm just a private pilot, I'm not an airline pilot. So if there is something that I don't know, I have a plethora of resources that I can go to, and I do utilize those resources. So I want to make sure that when I put information out in these tutorials, that I put out the most accurate information as possible. Now, the other challenge is taking real world scenarios, or, making it as realistic as possible, but tweaking it to where it's applicable to infinite flight.
Right.
So, that's the other challenge. And that was a challenge with flight following. I mean, obviously there's more to flight following, and there's different procedures for it, different regulations, but for the purposes of infinite flight, that's what I put out today. So, there's been a lot of positive feedback for it. It's just a very simple, easy to understand concept for our purposes within the sim.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm pumped to watch it, bro.
I can tell.
Yeah. It was a busy day. I didn't get to watch it today, and you released it this morning, so.
Yeah. And, but it went pretty well. And so.
Cool.
And, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Normally the day after the first 24 hours is when everything, people put their input in and stuff like that. Yeah. So we'll see tomorrow.
Hey, let me ask you this. What do you, when you post, these video tutorials to, let's say, the Infinite Flight Facebook page, what do you think is the most common comment that you get? Is it like a 3D buildings comment, or I mean, I haven't paid attention to all of them, so what would you say that is?
Yeah, it's 3D buildings. Let's add well, and of course there's always the infamous "please make free."
And then there's a myriad of livery and airplane requests.
I basically get the entire server of pictures from Google posted within the comments. And, and a lot lately is the A350. Well, I'm going to tell you now, though I'm thankful and feel privileged that, we had the opportunity to fly the Airbus, the A320 sim.
Yeah.
I've never hidden the fact that I'm a Boeing guy.
Yeah, of course.
So telling me, oh, I want the A350, I want that is just white noise to me.
It's rubbing you the wrong way. Well, listen, the A350, yeah, it's got pretty windows, and it would be really nice to have, but I mean, I think if at this point, if Infinite Flight or Flying Development Studio, and by the way, I actually don't fully know. I know a little bit. I don't know fully what's coming down the pike, but if they were to add the A350 right now, they'd be ignoring, oh man, so many from the beginning of the app. People have wanted, what do you call them? Like a tri-engine, jet,
well, you've got the L-1011 TriStar, you've got the MD-11s,
right? Exactly.
DC-10, 727s, and you know what? And I will say this, man, the A350. I mean, I'm a Boeing guy, but the A350 is an awe-inspiring aircraft.
It's a beautiful airplane.
It's absolutely beautiful, but. Well, and here's my thoughts on that. The A350, as far as in looks, is so very similar to the 787 itself anyway. So to put those back to back, just to me, wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah, right.
And also, honestly, yes, there are some places that we can get information, and just with being in the alpha and beta team that we very much push for flight physics. I mean, that's what we put a lot of focus on. And there's just not a lot of public concrete information on the 350 yet.
Yeah, right.
So, when we do put something out, we want to make sure that we have as much possible information. Now, is that saying that we'll never have the 350? No, it's not. But it would just be too close right now to do it with us just putting out the 787. And the two are so similar in a lot of ways, but and the longer it's out, the more information will become more public, and we'll be able to get access to that.
Yeah.
Or some of our resources can get access to that for us. So, people just, I understand they want it. We understand at FDS that people want it. So, we get it. We hear you. We've heard you.
Yes.
But
And speaking of we heard you, and I'm not we, but I saw a comment today on Facebook when you did make that post where someone was saying, "Why are you ignoring us? We want 3D buildings. When is Global coming out? Why another airplane?" Because you made a post. Actually, it wasn't for this video. It was for the C-130, which we're going to talk about in a second. But first C-130 official post on the Infinite Flight Facebook page is there if you haven't seen it yet, with a beautiful Coast Guard livery.
love it.
Yes, Mark, we will talk about that in a minute. Just settle down.
I know, I can't wait.
Yeah. So the post is there, and what I think it would be cool for people to realize, if you're the person who made that type of post, is that yes, Global is being worked on, but keep in mind that Global is such a massive project that if they stop development on everything else and just focused on Global, there wouldn't be an update for a very long time. So you wouldn't
absolutely.
have you wouldn't have the C-130 coming out. What was the last one? The 787 Dreamliner.
The
We wouldn't have the
787,
Dreamliner. There'd be people would be cranky. So keep in mind there are devs working on Global. And then there's someone like Laura who might be, focusing more on the new airplanes and so on. So just something to maybe keep in mind as you're complaining on Facebook or complaining on the forum. What I love, though, Mark, having said all of that, is the passion and the interest. People will even be on the forum or Facebook going, "Oh, this isn't even the best flight sim." And I'm going, well, what are you doing on their Facebook page and on the forum all the time if it's not the best, or
Man.
at least you don't have some sort of interest in it? But to each their own. I think that it just speaks more volume for people are just they're craving more, which is awesome.
And I get that, man, and we do too, and we understand that it's the community that has allowed us to become the flight sim that we are, and we're very, very thankful, very grateful for the support of everyone. And 3D buildings, yeah, I get that. That would be cool, but what people have to understand is, we're infinite flight, so we put our focus on flying and the physics of the aircraft, and you've got to admit, for a mobile device, a mobile platform, we have some of the best rendering in aircraft, and in my opinion, as well as several others, the best physics. And 3D buildings are cool, but like today,
They don't do anything though. They just sit there.
They just sit there. But for me, after a flight, normally when we fly, it's what, 30, 40, 45 minutes, something like that. But
Yep.
First of all, I hate a long taxi. So, I'll spawn in, and if I'm so far away from the active runway, I'll just keep respawning till I find the one closer.
Yeah.
But after I land, like today, Tyler and I flew into Tampa, and as soon as I exited the runway, man, you know what? I just logged out.
Yeah.
I have no desire, for me, to taxi to a terminal and sit there and park, and it's on a mobile device, it's so much more difficult than on a PC platform. We have, because we do track what a lot of our community members use as far as what type of devices. And if we just started bombarding the system with all these 3D buildings, that takes up so much memory. And we have a lot of devices that have 16 gig, 16 gig capacity. And, if you put out an update that's got a 2 to a 3 gig update, well, you've already used almost a fourth, just in one app, a fourth of the memory.
Yeah.
So now, granted, does that mean that we'll never have 3D buildings? I'm not saying that. It's just not a priority. So, and as far as global is concerned, man, only thing I'll say to that well, not the only thing, but one big thing I'll say to that is that global will be worth the wait. It's not like just putting together, you know, two or three major hubs in a
Hmm.
region, and then a couple little small Charlies, and then even smaller Deltas, and then even the smaller grass strips. It's so much more than that when we're doing global, because there's more than 20 or 30 airports that are throughout the world.
Yeah. Oh, and FlightCast fans, listen. If you listen to anything on this episode, we have seen some of Global, and there are so many bonuses coming that you don't even realize that come along with Global Flight that are going to make the wait worth it. Just you got to trust us. It's going
Oh,
to be gorgeous.
the
Yeah.
wait is going to definitely be worth it. And this is something that we really, really want to hit the nail on the head with. We don't want to put out global that's, you know, we don't want to cut corners.
Hmm.
If you know what I'm saying. You know,
Yeah.
we want it to be as good as possible. And so, I mean, it's a daily conversation that we're all having. And so it's something that we really, really, really want this to be something that just pushes us up there, you know, as far as just making this the pinnacle of a mobile flight sim on a mobile platform. I can't even stress to you enough, like you just said, it's going to be worth the wait. It is going to be
Definitely.
amazing. And I
Definitely.
can't wait.
Cool. All right. Well, Mark, I promised you we talk about the C-130.
Yes.
Let's try and this is going to be difficult. Let's try and keep this somewhat brief because I do want to talk about the Blue Angels as well. So, C-130 Coast Guard livery picture is gorgeous.
Yes. Well, just the
The,
livery itself is
oh,
gorgeous.
yeah, but I mean, okay, so you have a special connection to the C-130 in the Coast Guard. You've mentioned it on several episodes. Your dad flew on the C-130. Can you just give us a real brief, what was his involvement there?
Well, like I said, and a lot of people know, of course, you know, the C-130 is by far my favorite aircraft because, I mean, that's probably the first aircraft that I ever went on because Dad was in the Coast Guard.
Hmm.
And so I've never flown on one yet, but I will one day. But, you know, Dad was in the Coast Guard 26 years. And of that 26 years, he was on the 130 for 22 of those years, I reckon. First 2 years, he was on a ship. He hated that. Went into A school. And then when we transferred down here to Alabama, they didn't have C-130s. So his last 2 or 3 years, he was on the Falcon jet, the Falcon 20 jet.
Hmm.
But he did, man, you know, I'm so proud of my father and all that he did. And I don't care how many times I've heard the story, I can still just sit and listen to the stories. Even though I might know them word for word, I still love to hear the stories. And,
That's cool.
you know, he flew on the stand team in the Coast Guard, and, you know, they traveled all over the country, all over the world.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you right there. What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I just know it was a stand team. He was out of the stand team long before I even really remembered what it was, but I just remember stand team. And, you know, I just remember that they would always be deployed for, you know, 2 or 3 weeks at a time on these trips, whether it was, you know, hauling ice or supplies to, you know, to say areas that have just been impacted by a hurricane or training or whatever, you know, SAR cases left and right. Dad, during the back in 85, 86, I can't remember what year it was, but when the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up right after launch, sadly, you know, my father was part of the SAR team, and when I say SAR, I mean search and rescue. But he was part of that team that the Coast Guard deployed to go out looking for everything. So, you know, and so I'm just very proud of that. And the biggest thing that he used to love to do was the Coast Guard is with the International Ice Patrol or that's one of their biggest functions, to where they go out and mark icebergs to make them more visible to ships and stuff like that. So charting them and everything else. So that's what he loved to do, because he was sitting on the back of the ramp. The ramp was open, and they're just deploying stuff left and right on these icebergs. And there's a picture that's in the museum, the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola. They have this big Coast Guard section, and there's a picture of a C-130 that's flying by an iceberg. And Dad was actually in that picture. He was in that plane when that picture was taken. So that's pretty cool. He's been in the National Geographic. There's a big article that was read back when everything was paper magazines. Big article for that as far as for load masters, drop masters. And if you can name it or think of it, he's probably loaded it on a 130. So, I mean, it's just amazing, the stories that he tells me.
You know, I wonder if he'd have a chat with us on FlightCast.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to him this week. They just got back from a cruise, and the first couple of days, you know, they're busy unpacking, resting, and everything else. So, of course, I'll see him Thursday for Thanksgiving, and while we're over there, you know, I'll definitely sit down and have a chat with him, and I'm sure I can convince him of it.
Love it.
So hopefully that's something. Yeah, he would be a great person to have on here.
Cool.
And he could tell you what stand team means. So
there you go. Well, we'll hear right from the horse's mouth, maybe.
Literally.
So, Mark, I don't think it's a secret. We've been flying the beta team's been flying around on or maybe the alpha team actually. I'm not sure. Been flying around on the C-130 a little bit. It's awesome.
it man.
Does the C-130 have? Let's talk a little bit about. Now, I actually don't know what we're allowed to say, what we're not allowed to say. Let's just talk in generalities. Does the C-130 have flight spoilers or air brakes of any kind?
No, not the H models. I want to say that maybe some of the J's or the J-30s, which is the stretch version, may have some rear spoilers that would deploy, but I could be wrong. So I know the older models don't. Okay. Which is of course the H, but
and yet that thing has those four props create a tremendous amount of drag, and they've got some ridiculous brakes on them, so that thing stops on a dime. It's pretty fun to try those assault landings.
Yeah, and if you do it just right, you can get that little wheelie pop there at the end. So that's right. Always a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, man, the C-130 is just unreal. I mean, anything that you can land, it'll land on asphalt, concrete, dirt, grass strips, but ice, man, that thing will land on ice. But anyway, yeah, I mean, so this thing is so multi-mission capable, so versatile, man. It's just awesome. And this plane, like I said, can land on grass, asphalt, concrete, dirt. It doesn't matter. It even on the ice up in the Arctics, man, these things will land there. And then back in the 50s, I believe it was, maybe early 60s, I'd have to double check, but they even had a C-130 that landed on an aircraft carrier that they did for some testing. Made several landings unassisted. No tail hook, and several unarrested landings, and several takeoffs without the catapult. So they would just power back to the end of the aircraft carrier and launch back off. And only cleared, and what's cool, it would only clear the tower of the carrier, the wingtip, by 15 feet.
No way.
So. Yeah, I'll have to send you pictures of it. And what's even more cooler is that aircraft that did those carrier landings. It was only one. That aircraft is now on display at the Pensacola Naval Air Station at the museum. So I've gotten to see that aircraft several times. They have it out on the flight line. So
Very
that's pretty cool.
Well, that's Mark. I'm glad you said that. That is a perfect transition into our next section. You recently attended the Blue Angels homecoming at the Pensacola Naval Air Station, or NAS as it's referred to. And we published a short clip of you there with Wake Turbulence, your son, on the FlightCast Facebook page. So anybody who's following us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/FlightCastAudio, and in fact, twitter.com/FlightCastAudio, Instagram.com/FlightCastAudio, and YouTube.com/FlightCastAudio. Yeah.
God, let me know when you're done with all your audio.com. And
well, you know what?
Lord.
Actually, since we're putting in promos, what we didn't mention before was the new video that you mentioned before was on Flight of
YouTube.
Yeah, crap. What was the video called?
Flight Following.
Yeah. Flight Following.
Yeah, the Flight of was like 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, okay.
But I appreciate keeping up.
Yep. So the new video is we didn't say this before, and I meant to, is at youtube.com/InfiniteFlightApp. There's actually many iterations of your YouTube channel URL, but anyway, Infinite Flight Simulator, so on and so on. But check that out, and since we're doing promos right now, why don't we hear a little bit about Live Flight App? Mark, have you heard of Live Flight for Infinite Flight?
Yeah, man. I've used it to track flights and to see which regions and airports are busy before, planning my flight.
Right. Well, as you probably know, a new version of Live Flight is now available at liveflightapp.com. This new version is better than ever and has been rebuilt from the ground up. With the new design, more flight stats, a search feature, and airport information, tracking and planning your flight is easier than ever.
Oh, man, I know. And now with the new downloadable KML files, you can download your flight data to any Earth browser, such as Google Earth. It's so cool.
Absolutely. And if that wasn't enough, you can now subscribe to Live Flight Horizon, a new service for only $1.99 a month that provides real-time, worldwide airport information such as weather, runway data, and charts. It also allows you to search for flights, active ATC frequencies, and airports. And as a Live Flight Horizon subscriber, you'll also get much longer online sessions, and you'll be helping Cam to keep developing and improving this great app.
So guys, make sure you head over to liveflightapp.com to give it a try, and also subscribe to Live Flight Horizon. It will make your infinite flight experience so much better.
And now back to the podcast. All right, let's get back to the Blue Angels, Mark.
All right.
So we published a short clip of you there with Wake Turbulence, Matthew, on the FlightCast Facebook page. This question is completely redundant, but I've got to ask, how was it?
Man. Now, the video or the air show? Because the video was a lot of fun. Now, I know that you were probably sweating bullets, after giving me access to the FlightCast page.
I trust you, bro.
I did try. Yeah, I know. I know you do, and I appreciate it, and I did try to behave. But, no, seriously, man,
the air show, though, what was your favorite part?
Getting there. That just... The Blue Angels, I've seen them, I don't even know how many times over the years. Pensacola is their home base. So, I can go over there on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, I believe, and watch them. Normally, if I go watch them practice, it's on a Tuesday. But I can go over there and watch them practice anytime. But that's their home base. And so, they're kind of the local hometown heroes, if you will. And man, it's just awesome. And no matter how many times I see them, I'm still in awe. I'm still amazed at the precision of these guys. They make it look so effortless.
Man, and when you talk about precision, I don't know if I was told this or if this is just something that I assumed, that it looks like they're very close, flying very close, and so that must be they're up in the air, so that's how it looks. No, man, they're like literally 18 inches apart
18
sometimes.
Inches apart, and even closer at times.
That is unreal.
Yeah, they get within.
Seems incredibly
within
dangerous.
a couple of inches. It is, and in the best way I can describe it, is when you watch them fly, and they're going at speeds of 250, 300, 350, even higher. And they're doing these loops, these barrel rolls, and doing all these maneuvers, and and still staying within those inches of each other.
Yeah.
And it looks. Have you ever been water skiing?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the last time I went on a cruise, I went water skiing because that was the only boat that could get me out the water was the cruise boat. But they gave me these skis, see, and the skis were tied together with rope.
Oh yeah.
And so where one ski went, the other ski went. And that's what it kind of looks like if nobody has ever seen the Blues or the Thunderbirds or any of these other aerobatic demo teams. When they fly with such precision and so close, I mean, it almost looks like they are tied together.
Yeah. What
It's
was
almost
it?
flawless.
By the way, that was one of your best analogies ever. I really enjoyed that one.
Oh, thank you.
What was the? You remember maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, when I went around on Facebook. It was a 3D video in a cockpit of a formation. It was a squadron of some kind, but it wasn't the Blue Angels.
It was the Blues.
Oh, it was? No, it was like
yeah,
a Swedish or it was
well,
from a Swiss. Oh, it was the Swiss. There was a Swiss flying team of some kind.
Now the Blues do have one that's in a 360 cockpit view, which is HD, and it's pretty cool.
That makes me nervous just watching. My heart starts racing a little bit because I'm like, man, I feel like I'm just gonna watch these guys clip a wing at any second, and they don't.
Is that why when we fly, you're always so far off? You're scared you're going to clip a wing, but yet you're actually 3 or 4 miles away from us?
No, that would be because I'm normally just not paying attention. I'm multitasking.
But yeah,
it's amazing.
All pretty much all these demo teams, since the 360 cam has now come out.
Yeah.
A lot of these teams have actually done this, and the one that you're talking about, I don't know if I've seen it or not, but the Blue Angels do have one, and since they're the highlight of what we're talking about today, that's who I'm going to discuss as far as the 360. And so when you go to that, and what's cool about these 360 vids is that you can actually pan around, which is the whole purpose of the 360, and you can see the pilot, you can see the guest in the back seat, but then you can also see the wingtips, just how close they are to the canopy. Mm-hmm. And what's cool is it's not just flying with that precision. They have to take into account turbulence, wind shear, just winds in general, air pockets. I mean, they got to take all this stuff into consideration, but yet they're still trying to maintain that 18-inch separation. Now, when you watch it on the 360 video, the 360 cam video, man, these guys are just bouncing around left and right. They're constantly having to make corrections, but when you're watching from the ground, you're just like, there is no movement.
It's like butter, yeah. I don't know, man. That scene, there's obviously that's not in my career path, but that seems incredibly stressful and not fun. Flying. Yeah, because
you'd have to be pretty much in the military to fly for a military demo team. And
but I mean, it just doesn't seem fun. But I'm glad somebody's doing it. It's amazing. But man,
I've flown formation a few times, with the 172 and other 172s, and of course we don't get that close. But it is a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work. I know in a 172. Yeah. So I can only imagine going 300, 350 knots, doing freaking loops and barrel rolls and.
Yep. Well, and Steve Thorne on Flight Chops just did some formation flying in the Chipmunk with some other guys, and Mr. Aviation 101, Josh, he's done some formation stuff in the 172 and 80901 Skyhawk, and so yeah, I mean that sounds fun. That seems like a lot of work, but lower stress. But anyway, amazing.
Now,
and
I will say this: you asked me what was my favorite part at the air show.
Mm-hmm.
How about when I walk in the gate and walk around a little bit? There was the Skyhawk 172.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Every year they have a 172 Skyhawk there on display, and I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, that jet's cool, and that P3 over there is all right. And of course, this year they had a CH-53 Jolly Green Giant. There's the 172. And it's funny when I saw it. It's like It's like when I walk into a gas station looking for that Mountain Dew, and the light in the Mountain Dew cooler is brighter, and then when you open up that door, you hear, oh, you hear that sound. That's what I heard when I saw the 172. The cloud broke.
Your
The
day is
clouds
complete.
above broke, and the sun beam just shined upon that 172, and I'm like, son, all right, we can go.
Yep.
Well, Daddy, we got to watch the Blues. Oh, we can watch them on video. We're good to go.
That's great. All right. So Mark, as you know, I know very little about Army, about the U.S. military, and if anyone's seen Arrested Development, which you can go watch on Netflix,
which is hilarious. By the way.
hilarious, one of the best shows ever made on television. Buster's character, he basically pretends to be in the Army, and he just calls it Army. So one of his famous quotes.
Even the Army,
yeah.
Even the Army has a demo team, though.
Oh yes, that's true. But
the Golden Knight.
One of Buster's favorite quotes or famous quotes is, "These are my awards, Mother, from Army," and he's got like a bunch of stuffed animals and stuff that he got from a vending machine. But anyway, so I'm not as bad as Buster. Although he did actually serve a little legit time. This should be obvious to our listeners by now, but I'm getting better. And so here's what I know, and let's just do a few facts, if that's all right, Mark. We're just going to go through a few Blue Angels facts.
Go ahead.
So the Blue Angels, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this or if my terminology is off, but the Blue Angels is a...
I need your permission to correct you if you're wrong.
No. So they're a display squadron of fighter jets. And these fighter jets are... they've gone through sort of a whole kind of transformation over the years of which aircraft they've used. And actually, Mark, I'll get you to help me list some of these, but... because you know these airplanes better than I do, but they're currently flying in the F/A-18 Hornet, and they're not decommissioned, but they're former actual aircraft that have been used as fighter jets. And
actually, can I correct you on that?
yes, yeah, go.
These aircraft, when they get them, I want to say that when they get them at around 15,000 hours. These aircraft, and I could be mistaken, but it's around that time. But these aircraft, even though they are used within the Blue Angels for the purposes of demos, they also have to maintain the ability to make them combat ready.
Yes, exactly. And so they've actually removed the guns. There's a gun on an F/A-18. There's a gun somewhere in the nose or something.
Cannon.
I don't know. Cannon. Yep. So they've taken that out, but they can put it back in. And then it takes
actually 8 hours for them to take the Blue Angel and make it combat ready. It takes 8
hours. Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
So now there's only 6 of them or something, right? So, well, how many do they have in their fleet? They've got 6 flying in the formation, but
yeah, they have 6 that they fly regularly. They have number 7, and I want to say they have an 8, maybe even a couple of number 7s that they use to fly VIPs and stuff like that.
Oh, got it.
Or if one of the aircraft are down, then they'll use number 7.
Back up, right? Okay,
correct.
Okay, so then they've got a spare sort of it's like a smoke oil tank that they use to make smoke when they're doing their formations that they outfit this thing with. And so anyway, these are real F/A-18 Hornets, which is pretty amazing. I saw an F/A-18 once at the Chicago Gary Airshow when I lived in Indiana, and I saw it from the water. I was on a friend's boat, and it was electric. It was amazing. I mean, we were on a boat, and it just shook the boat.
So if you want to see something awesome, and you saw it from a boat's perspective, which is cool because the Blues actually do a beach. Yep. Yeah, they do a beach air show at Pensacola once a year as well, like halfway through the season. But watch when you get a chance, watch the San Francisco Bay show, where their entire air show is done over San Francisco Bay. Dude, they get one of the solos get so freaking low over the water you can actually see it pulling that water up off of the
rooster tail,
the top Oh yeah, dude. It
Nice.
is. It's just awesome.
Cool. Okay, so we've got now. You can help me out here, Mark. I've got a list, but I don't necessarily know what in the world I'm talking about. So they started out, and actually, no. Let's do the list in a minute. So they formed in 1946, and
Yep.
they were the world's second ever flight demonstration squadron in existence, behind the Patrouille de France, which was a formation team from France, which was formed in 1931. So France had the first one. These guys came in and they did the second one.
I saw that and I thought it said Ratatouille. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Our devs can correct me on my pronunciation, but I think it's a French patrol, they called it. But so they had the first one. Blue Angels came in with the second one, and as you said, the U.S. has three actually, right? Formation teams. They've got the Blue Angels. They've got the what are the white ones? Thunderbirds. Yep.
Thunderbirds. Those guys are they're awesome as well. They fly the F-16.
Okay.
And there's a lot of some that do the Warbirds. The Airshow aerobatic team flies the T-6 Texan. They were there last weekend.
Oh, cool. That's the T6 is a prop, isn't it?
Yes, it is a prop. And if you go to my my Instagram page,
Instagram.com/SkyhawkHeavy.
Well, just one Skyhawk Heavy. Yeah, just Instagram.com/Skyhawk Heavy.
Yep.
I have a video that I posted of the Airshow team doing a loop. And there's four of them flying. And just to hear the sounds of those engines, man, it is just...
Oh, that'd be just...
Jets are cool.
Rip-roaring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jets are cool. It's kind of like having a gas-powered truck and a diesel truck. The diesel I just love, I just love that rattling sound, which is what you get from these piston aircraft.
Oh man,
these
the piston.
radials.
Oh, it's and when we were at ModCon 16 back in the fall, we saw some piston engines and heard them start up, and it's just you see the smoke go, and it's just that rumble.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Anyway, so
the 172 that was there as well. So I'm just
yes,
saying.
the 172 was wonderful, Mark. So we've got they started out with they didn't start out with F/A-18s, obviously. They started out in 1946 with the F6F Hellcat.
The Hellcat.
And then they went to the Bearcat.
Yep.
And
it
then,
was the F8, the F8F, I believe, and just a step up from the F6, a little bit heavier, a little bit more powerful engine, slightly bigger. But the F6, there's actually it's either the F6 or the F8. I can't remember. I want to say it's the F6. They still have one flying around. It's privately owned, of course, but it's painted up in the Blue Angels paint scheme.
okay.
And they still fly it around at different air shows, and he will actually, fly for performances and fly with the Heritage Flight and stuff like
Nice.
that. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see that.
All right, and then they went up to the F9 Panther, and then the F9 F5 Panther in 1951, and then up to the F9 8 Cougar, and they were really on a kind of a animal kick here. They went from the Cougar to the F11 Tiger, and then to the F4J Phantom 2,
Which is the Phantom.
Okay, but Mark, before you get into that, at what point did we switch to jets here? Because I have no idea.
From the Bearcat to the Panther.
Oh, really? Okay. So in 1949, we went to jets. Okay, so the Phantom, you were saying?
I could be wrong. Let me double check that real quick. I want to say the Panther, the F9 is a jet. So anyway, the what were we talking about?
Oh, the Tiger or the
F4?
Phantom or something. Yeah, F4 Phantom.
Yeah, the F4 Phantom, man, the F9 is a jet. I thought it was.
Right.
The F4 is probably one of my favorite aircraft as far as jets are concerned. It's an older plane, of course, but a lot of militaries actually still use it today. Super fast, twin engine. Man, these things are just awesome.
This thing looks like a beast.
Oh, it is. It is. And the earlier versions didn't even have cannons on them, any kind of cannon gun or anything like that. So they actually had to mount external gun pods on them for dogfighting when they were too close for missiles and stuff like that. But the F-4 Phantom, man, there's just something about it. And if you look at the wings, if you're looking at a picture of it, and I think you are, if you look at the wings toward the end, the wings kind of curve up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't really curve. It just kind of like angles up.
Shoots up, yeah.
Yeah, I just love that look about these planes. And I've seen a few of them fly. Never had the privilege of seeing the Blue Angels perform in that, but it was so cool. And when you go to the Pensacola Naval Air Station, to the museum, they've got some F4. They have an F4 Blue Angel on display that you can actually get in and take pictures when it's the front part of the fuselage.
Nice.
And yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool,
Very,
man.
very
I
cool.
just love that bird.
And then they went to the F4 Skyhawk, and guys, if you want to see the full list at
A4.
the the A4, sorry,
It's the A4,
A4F Skyhawk 2. If you want to see the full list, go
which is
to
what they were flying. Sorry, that's what they were flying when the first time I ever saw them was the A4.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep, full list, blueangels.navy.mil. So that's blueangels.navy.mil. And Mark, we have to move this along. The Blue Angels were formed initially to boost Navy morale and increase public interest in naval aviation, which I didn't really realize until I did a little research on this. Now, what's interesting though is that in November 2011, the Blue Angels received they had been receiving up until 2011 upwards of $37 million annually out of the Department of Defense budget for that reason.
Yep.
Boost Navy morale, increase public interest. So it's
Increase public interest.
that's the key, right? Increasing public interest. So now in 2013, of course, there was this U.S. government cut $85 billion in spending in the budget sequestration. So the Blue Angels flights were temporarily shut down. And then not even a year later, right? There was a general or somebody started them back up again, but with way less resources. So they're doing less flying and stuff like that. But they still do more than 70 shows at 34 locations throughout the United States every year, which isn't too shabby. Fewer
And they even
flyovers and things like that.
Yeah, and they even actually fly internationally. They've been known to go to air shows, and perform in Europe and everything else. So they literally go and travel all over the world.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, when they took it, when they canceled the air shows, dude, let me tell you how that is in the aviation community. That's like taking NASCAR away from rednecks, man. That's not something that's going to go over lightly.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money, though. $37 million to keep these dudes and I'm assuming the odd woman once in a while. Have there ever been any women Blue Angel pilots that you know of?
Yes. Well, not yet. They just recently had a female pilot for Fat Albert, the C-130. But here's and we can talk about that in a second. But here's something that's interesting that some people may not know is these guys that fly for the Blues, they're volunteers. They don't get paid anything extra for these flights, to be part of the Blue Angels. Just the title, I guess, and that prestige to say that they are a Blue Angel pilot. I believe the rotation is every 2 years.
Oh,
they
wow.
pull them out of the squadrons and they train, and then they rotate every 2 years. So after 2 years, their tour is up. They go back out to their squadrons. They bring in new pilots for them and start the process all over. I believe it's the same for Fat Albert. Now, these pilots, man, they are amazing. They do a phenomenal job. But I will say this, just to give a shout out to the ground crew, the enlisted personnel that are out there working on the aircraft, just making sure that these aircraft are always at the ready. Keeping them maintenance and everything else, man, they couldn't do it without these guys. And I just don't think, the Blues do a great job in, giving them a lot of credit, but I still don't think enough credit goes out to them. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about Fat Albert. What in the world is Fat Albert's job? What is it?
Man, it was a cartoon that I used to watch growing up.
Nope. Back up. I'm talking about the airplane.
I know. And of course, Fat Albert is what?
Yeah.
A C-130. And man, I used to love watching, and actually, that's my favorite part of any Blue Angel air show. I mean, yeah, the jets are super awesome, but I'm just a prop guy and especially a C-130 guy. So, when Fat Albert performs, I'm pretty much good to go at that point. Everything else is just bonus, but the Fat Albert's probably my favorite part of the air show. And years ago, they used to what they do is they actually, when they take off, they rotate and they used to actually rotate and go straight up at 45 degrees using JATO, which is jet assisted takeoff. Well, they no longer use the rockets. They basically will now line up, get clearance for takeoff, they will throttle up, get to around 130, maybe about 130 or so ish. Rotate, get about 5 feet off the ground after the gear come up, and then they will throttle to about 150, 160, and then they will pull that nose up to another 45 degrees, and they'll climb out, 1,000, 1,500 feet, something like that, and then they'll level off and begin their show. So that bird is just another testament, man, to what the C-130 can do. There's
and
not
it's just
enough
part of the
to
team.
say.
Part of the
Yeah.
what's the purpose?
Well, the purpose is to basically transport the personnel, the ground crew, the ground support, maintenance, parts, spare parts for the aircraft. It basically does all that. Now, unfortunately, toward the end of this year, Fat Albert went down for maintenance, and so sadly, it wasn't at the air show last week.
Oh,
yeah, that
stinks, man. That's your favorite airplane.
I know, and they didn't even have a C-130 on static display, so I was a little about that. But they had a couple Coast Guard birds out there, and I get to see them all the time. But I wanted to see a C-130, and and I wanted Matthew. Matthew's never seen one up close, so I wanted him to see one. They didn't have it. Fat Albert wasn't out there, and so right now the Blues are actually flying a just a regular Marine C-130, and that's something that a lot of people may not know is that the Blue Angels, even though it's the U.S. Navy Blue Angels, is flown by both Navy and Marine pilots.
Yes, right. Yep.
And Fat Albert is actually a U.S. Marines C-130. So, it's all flown by these guys, and right now they're flying around. They're not performing or doing any kind of demos in the C-130. They're just using it to haul the personnel and the parts and everything else around in. So,
cool.
While Fat Albert is down for some serious maintenance.
All right. I don't want to dwell on this fact. It's just a really cool tidbit. These pilots, so as you guys might know, the fighter jet pilots wear something called a G suit, which is a gravity suit. No, G-force suit.
No, it's not. They're not. Yeah, they're not flying in space or anything.
No. So it's G-force. So they've what these things basically are. They're a fighter jet suit, and they've got like real tight pants, and they have bladders in them that will inflate and deflate on a valve that senses G-force, and their purpose is to keep blood in the body where it needs to be so that it does not drain from the brain, literally drain from your head and cause blackouts.
Right.
So when you're flying at serious G-forces, that can cause blackouts. Here's the interesting fact. These guys don't wear G-suits when they fly in the Blue Angels. What they do instead, this is bananas. They clench their muscles in their legs and in their arms to accomplish the same thing. So when they know that there's going to be serious G-forces, and here's why. They do that because if they were wearing a G-suit, their G-suits would be inflating and deflating constantly because of the aerobatics and things that they're doing. And so it would get in the way, and they wouldn't be able to do their maneuvers. And, as we know, one wrong move means they're dead, and probably somebody else is dead as well, and possibly the whole crowd. So they don't wear them, and the only thing protecting them from blacking out is the fact that they are clenching their muscles to accomplish the same task.
I want to say they call it the hic maneuver or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
it's hic breathing.
Crap, I read it.
But there's a lot of videos on YouTube that you can watch with this. Now, there's one video, and I'll find it and send it to you. But it's pretty cool. It's basically a GoPro on the front of the cockpit, looking back at the pilot, and you see him doing this the hic maneuver, and he's sitting there breathing, and then when he's doing all his other flying, he's just sitting there chewing gum, like no big deal. So
it's nuts.
Now here's another interesting fact that you probably didn't know. I'm kind of a daredevil. So when I'm flying in the 172, I don't wear a G suit either. Now I might make my passengers wear one, but I don't like it because it just kind of crowds me up. So I just choose not to wear it either. But it can get pretty intense in the 172.
I'm sure it can. Okay, here's something fun, Mark. What I did before we did this, because we didn't have a guest, I usually ask for questions for actually, before I do that, anything else you want to say about Blue Angels?
Well, just to reiterate, like I said, you'd asked about a female pilot, and I'll leave her name out. But people probably know it anyway. But yeah, she has been with the Blues for the last 2 years, was the first female pilot to fly with the Blues. And she was a pilot for Fat Albert, and tons of videos of her flying, man. And it's just, it's awesome to be in the cockpit, watching from the cockpit's perspective of Fat Albert, watching what that thing can do. So it's pretty cool, man.
Very, very cool. All right, so as I was saying before we go today, I just want to we don't have a guest, so normally I would ask on the Infinite Flight forum, which, by the way, guys, is community.infinite-flight.com. So if you're getting into Infinite Flight right now, head over there. There are tutorials and just a plethora of great stuff, along with some pretty crazy stuff by people who basically haunt that forum all day and night. But it's been great for FlightCast, and we appreciate our forum and our forum mods. What I usually do is I say, hey, here's the guest, and here, ask your questions. We don't have a guest today, so what I did was I said, hey, ask any random questions you want. And this is true. Mark and I have not read these questions, and I'm just going over here now. Mark, are you on there?
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up now. Yeah.
So here we are, FlightCast random infinite flight questions for Mark and Jason, and I just refreshed it. There are 31 comments. I'm going to scroll through here, and we're just going to read some of them. How do you like them apples?
Hey,
should we do it?
I'm all about the impromptu anyway.
Heck yeah,
I hate going from a script.
All right, but we got to make our answers quick, Mark, because we're running out of time here. All right. And you know what? Part of the fun is the screen names. This guy, Potato Pilot, guy or girl, I don't know, says, what's the best feature in Infinite Flight in your opinion? This is going to be rapid fire. So, Mark, go.
That I can log in.
Boom.
Soon
live
ATC
for me. Live ATC, period. Bulba's asking, and we've asked some of Bulba's questions before, do any of you have a mustache? No.
I have a beard-ish mustache.
So mustache has to be by itself. So no. What changes have you seen over the years? So too many to count. That was from.
I've gotten older.
Yeah.
Nismo Kits.
Yeah. Cameron Brown. Here we go. What flights will you do when Global's released? Have you done any flight testing for Global? That's for Mark. Go ahead.
What flights will I do for Global? I won't be flying across the pond or anything like that. I'll just be flying to new airports, probably doing like little 1 hour flights, and that's about it. And I will plead the fifth on the second.
Yep, we can't really say anything about that. Yep.
No.
Okay, N1DG, so November 1,
Delta Golf.
Golf. Sorry,
You're welcome.
I couldn't remember what D was. From Mark, how'd you get into aviation, and have you ever heard of I don't know
Mall.
what that is. Mall. If you want to find out Mark's history in aviation, go listen to more FlightCast. That's the answer to that.
Yeah, I was basically born into it. And yes, I know what a mall is.
Okay, good. Owen_Anderson is saying for both of us, have you flown the Super Decathlon in Infinite Flight, and or do you like it? Have you ever flown in a glider? If you have, what type? So my answer is yes, I flew through the Decathlon last week. Do I like it? No. Have you ever flown in a glider? No. Your turn.
All right, so have I ever flown the Super Decath? Yes, I have. Do I like it? It's all right. I prefer the Spitfire. Have you ever flown in a glider? Hell no. That's all I'm going to say because, listen, there's a reason I'm Skyhawk heavy, so I'm not about to trust something without any kind of propulsion to hold me up in the air. So
Mark weighs more than the actual aircraft, so that's just not ever a good idea. Riti is asking, how on earth did you guys find Infinite Flight and what made you interested in aviation? Again, Riti, you need to go back to the start of FlightCast and start listening because all those answers are in there. What's the dumbest forum topic you've ever come across?
Something about a cat. Somebody posted something about cats one time.
I'll go along with that. I don't spend tons of time on the forum, so I couldn't really. Some about Rubik's cubes, but we won't go there.
Yeah, we won't go there.
Patrick Yu, who we've asked, he's contributed lots to FlightCast in terms of questions. If you guys were developers, I am, but I'm assuming you mean Infinite Flight developer. What one aircraft, and that's bold, what one aircraft would you two add? Different aircraft for
C-130.
Mark would add the C-130. So, Mark, the C-130 is coming. So what would be the next one you would add?
The next one I would probably add would be something like a Saab 340 like a Twin Otter.
Oh, a float plane would definitely be mine for sure. Hands down. If they could get the water to work right with a float plane, a seaplane of some kind, I would do the de Havilland Beaver or...
The Beaver is
right?
so awesome.
Oh, man, with that piston engine? Ooh.
And if you notice, both you and I picked props for the planes that we would add.
Of course, man. Of course. Because that's our experience, right?
Yep.
Okay, so next question. Infinite.flight. Robert's asking, are you ever going to sing for us on the podcast? Nope. I know you sing in your own small band, so it'd be fun to hear you sing a solo.
Well, I don't sing. I play the drums, and you play the drums and the guitar, and you sing. So, yeah. But no, I'll just play the drums to Jason singing.
Yeah. No, but if you go to facebook.com/FlightCast Audio, check out the post about my band, The Pacifists, and my friend Kristen and I are playing a show. If you're in Ontario, if you're in Toronto and you're listening to this, come to Parry Sound on December 7th, 2016 to the Stocky Center for the Performing Arts. We're playing a concert. We are the headliners. It's going to be great. Next question.
Yep.
Carson.
Oh my God.
Carson says, opinions on the Rubik's Cube and its role in Infinite Flight. I will say that I have an uncle who can complete a Rubik's Cube. Its role in Infinite Flight is irrelevant. Next question.
Well, hold on. I need to give my answer to that one. First one, my opinion is that Carson's. Two, opinions on the Rubik's Cube in the role of Infinite Flight. No, we will not be placing it in the seat back pockets.
Maybe we could put it. Maybe we could put a pilot in one of the airplanes with a Rubik's Cube in his hand, like Arnaud.
Oh my Lord.
Arnaud. I know. We'll have the Airbus tray table.
With the tray table.
Yeah. With a Rubik's Cube sitting on it.
Book.
Yeah.
He can put his coloring book back in his flat bag and do the Rubik's Cube on the little tray table. Yep.
You know, Flying Development Studio needs to start paying me for these ideas.
Sure.
All right, Nicholas L. Oh, he's an IFATC guy. How's the bro?
Oh, my Lord.
I should have read these in advance. How's the bromance with Infinite.flight going?
Another one that's 2 steps from stupid, I swear. These guys,
on the serious side,
we have to deal with them on a regular basis, though.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to answer the rest of that question since the first part of the question was silly. Okay, Captain Louis says, opinions on the forum and how was it when it first started? I don't know. My opinion is that it's a great resource for information, and it also can take up a lot of your time if you're not careful.
Yeah, it can. You can actually easily get lost into the matrix of the forum, but it is a great centralized location for the community to be able to get in, communicate with each other, help each other, but also learn from tutorials and so on, and events.
Yep.
It's great for events.
Miguel Hernandez, CEO.
Nice.
That's my best Hispanic accent. When Global comes out, where will you fly from and to? I'm hoping my local field is in the Global, which I have it on good authority that it might be. And I'm gonna fly some, as we say in Canada, I'm gonna fly some circuits. Y'all would say patterns. And Mark already answered that.
I will probably fly from Mobile back to Mobile.
There you go. There you go. All right, Emil has lots of questions here. I'm just gonna rapid fire them. Here we go.
Emu.
Why aren't you coming back to Atlanta to visit your favorite, Emil? Well, Emil, we invited you to the first one, and you didn't show up, so that's that. Why doesn't FlightCast deliver T-shirts? Personally, pass. Hi, Mark. How cold is it in Canada? Currently, it is...
I don't have a clue.
Currently, it's about -5 degrees Celsius. That's somewhere around 30 degrees Fahrenheit on November 21st. Mark, what's your best advice for an aspiring pilot? Nope, we already answered that in many other episodes. What's y'all's favorite type of drink?
Mountain Dew.
IPA. That's a beer. What do y'all think of the U.S. election? No way are we answering that. How do you think the U.S. will change after I go back? Okay, you know what? We're going to move on to somebody else.
It'll be a much better place when Emo goes back to Europe. I'll say that.
Goodness, thanks, Emil. That was utterly useless.
What's your favorite movie? Top Gun?
Yep. No, let's move on. Oh, well, Josh was next. What are some of... he said, okay. In all seriousness, how do you envision your life would be different if Infinite Flight wasn't around and if you hadn't met all the great people you know today? Man, I will answer that one, actually. Joshua, that's a good question. We've joked about this a lot, how Mark enriches my life and so on.
And we know it's true.
We know it's true. But here's the thing, though. Like, for me personally, Mark, Joe, Tyler, Laura, Stephen, especially Stephen Wilson, Melvin, Jared, Hodge. Am I missing anybody from ModCon? I don't think so.
Well,
Allie. These people have, I consider them actual friends, dear friends that I've met, and I'll cherish these friendships forever. So it's amazing how I've said it before on another podcast that I used to think it was silly for people to meet up online. In some ways, it's still kind of weird, because you're meeting in a non-conventional way, but it's just becoming a normal part of life. And I just, whenever I think of our meetup last fall, I think of things like, of course, flying in the flight simulator and going to Warbird Weekend. But you know what I think of the most, Mark, when I think of that time? It is two things. Sitting around in Steven's basement, just hanging out and using Infinite Flight, all of us in the same room, and
while drinking Maker's Mark.
That was a separate memory. But the second thing is, you remember after we did the flight sim, we went out to this. I don't know, everything was closed, so we went at this diner, and
a little small diner.
Just sat around. Our waitress was crazy as all get out, on another planet. It was just, we're sitting around, we're now friends, and it was just a beautiful thing. And, we all
it didn't
sort of
feel
know
like
each other.
It was the first time that we all met.
No, definitely not.
Everything was very comfortable. There was no, nothing weird or anything like that. There was nothing uncomfortable about any of it. It just felt like it felt like a family reunion.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And it's a big part of my life, and I don't have any shame in admitting that. And, yeah, that's the answer to that question for me. Thanks, Josh. Let's move on here, unless you want to add to that, Mark.
No, just Joshua said, what are some of Joshua's greatest qualities?
Yeah, I skipped that
I
one.
can't really think of any off the top of my head. He does provide some entertainment inadvertently, so that's all I'll say to that.
Inadvertently, yeah. Although he is becoming a little more self-aware these days, which is nice to see. I don't know how to pronounce this. Narak Wim, or Vim, maybe. I don't know. For Jason, how hard is it? Narak, yeah. How hard is it to make the podcasts, like time spent and stuff like that? I've talked about that. You can go to my YouTube page and youtube.com/FlightCastAudio, and you can see my video on how to make a podcast. You can sort of get an idea there. I spend a couple hours, anywhere from 1 to 2 hours editing usually. Depends on if Joe's on the show.
On.
Yeah, then it's upwards of 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. All those bleeps you hear, that means I have to actually listen to the entire episode again, just to make sure that I catch everything. Airbus or Boeing, and why? I don't know. Airplanes is the answer for me. Boeing is the answer for Mark, clearly. Do you go to airports in plain spot? Absolutely. I don't live very close to a major airport. I have to drive 2 hours to get to Pearson International in Toronto, so I do when I can, and there's a wicked location as long as they're landing in the right spot. But Mark, you're at Mobile all the time.
Yeah, I'm all the time at one of the two fields here in Mobile. The big fields that we have. So yeah, I'm always fine.
Beauty. Nathan Hope is asking, cat or dog person? Dog. For
Dog.
sure, I'm allergic to cats. Favorite food or drink?
Edible food, Mountain Dew.
Edible food and Mountain Dew, except for green food, right, Mark?
Yeah, anything green. I mean, yeah, it's pretty and all on the plate, but no.
Mexican food and Indian food for me, for sure. Favorite pastime activity other than infinite flight? I love to play music. So does Mark. Mark's a drummer. I think I can answer that for you. Fishing, yep. I love spending time with my family and watching Netflix with my wife. Always awesome.
Yeah, hanging out with Wake.
There you go. Favorite airport to control in live? I don't know.
The one with the least traffic.
There you go.
Yeah.
We don't have time for the rest of those questions, but thanks, Nathan, for asking those. Mubashir, I think we've asked some of his questions before. If you were chosen between lifetime supply of pizza and lifetime supply of economy class tickets, what would you pick? Oh my goodness.
That's kind of a tough one.
Airplane tickets. For me, for sure. I can always buy pizza.
Yeah, the pizza's a lot cheaper. So yeah, I guess the tickets.
Ooh, and he says, do I tell Mark that I simply love, in caps, the way he says y'all? Give him another y'all one time for me, Mark.
Who said that?
Mubashir. Yeah.
Says, yeah. Hey, y'all. How's that?
Put some south in your mouth.
I've already had some dirt in my mouth now for, the whole recording. Oh, I always got my Copenhagen in now.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to skip over some of these. We got to sign off. Let's see. Ryan Vince. Hey, Ryan. Ryan was our last guest on episode 34. How hard was it to nail down the interview with that Ryan guy? Insanely hard.
That was very difficult.
Busy dude.
Well, he likes to give that image that he's busy, but he's doing stuff that he loves to do.
Yep. I don't remember his actual name now. I don't even know how to say this. New Ones Wars or something. New Ones Wars.
Oh, Never Won a War?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's Ryan too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Ryan, but I always call him Never Won a War.
Yeah. How do you feel about Tom Grolman?
Man, look, that's a whole nother episode right there.
Yeah. We've had
Tom is good people, man.
Tom's awesome.
He is, man, and a great family man, but he's just awesome. A great recruiter, great trainer.
He's got a job that lets him just be using infinite flight 24/7. It seems like what he does for a living.
Yep.
Yeah.
2 o'clock in the morning, test time. What? Do you not sleep?
Yeah, exactly. Boeing 777X says, have you ever spotted at DFW? No, but I've passed through there a few times. Mark, have you spotted there? Yep.
I've spotted during a layover, and that was it.
There you go. Me too, from the window. Mark, what's your middle name?
It's the name between my first and my last name.
There you go. Jason, what have you ever visited the cockpit of a 787? No.
Almost every day on Infinite Flight.
Andrew's question is just a can of worms. And when will Josh? Riley says, when will Josh be taught to land properly? Riley,
listen, Riley, that's not even possible. If he hasn't learned now, he's not going to learn.
Truesies. Yeah, that's all
he's
the questions.
He's the only one I know who can screw up an auto land.
Yeah, God bless him. That's it, guys. Thank you for submitting all those questions. That was really fun, and we'll do that one again.
Was fun.
Yeah, I love it. Mark, anything you want to add before we sign off today?
No, man, this was good. And, of course, I'll be going to different air shows and different events around. So,
and you got your FlightCast business cards to take with you.
Yeah, just the little cards to be able to take there. Actually look pretty cool to be able to pass those out and, just be able to talk to people about FlightCast and, of course, buy Infinite Flight, just like I did at the Blue Angels Air Show, man. That turned out pretty good.
Very nice. Thanks, man.
No, thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I know.
Well, guys, we hope you've enjoyed a slightly different FlightCast today on the United States Navy's Blue Angels and other shenanigans. Guys, thanks as always for listening. And if you haven't already, head over to the App Store or Google Play and download Infinite Flight. For more of the podcast, visit our website and be sure to subscribe on iTunes or YouTube. And we've given you those URLs throughout the entire episode. FlightCast is brought to you by Linkhouse Media on the web at linkhousemedia.com. We can always use your help to keep the podcast rolling, and a few ways to do that are by clicking the donate button at the bottom of our website or by heading to flightcast.audio/shop to buy your own FlightCast gear. And guys, there is still time before the holidays to grab your new FlightCast hoodie, t-shirt, hat, mug, iPhone case, all kinds of stuff. To cover the fine print, FlightCast is not affiliated with Infinite Flight or Flying Development Studio. I'm Jason Rosewell. With me was Skyhawk Heavy. Thanks for listening and happy landings.